By the end of this video, you are gonna feel comfortable with your competition on Etsy. Okay, even I can get like super discouraged by competition. Competition is just inevitable, no matter what you're doing. When you're putting your hand up and saying, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, you are consenting to compete, whether you're on Etsy or not. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not human and I don't get discouraged, but sometimes we have to change our perspective of competition and what competition actually really does for us. In reality, if we look at it properly, competition should, by the very nature, make you a better entrepreneur, right? Competition forces us to be more innovative and build better businesses. And it can be frustrating at times, but with that being said, we have to remember that it's a choice and we can choose to grow and innovate, or we can choose to not. But at the end of the day, again, like I said, it's a choice. So with that being said, in this video, we're gonna go over really the easiest two-step process to stand out in comparison to your Etsy competition. I really want you to leave this video feeling confident on what you need to do for your specific needs, wants, fears, and goals, your shop idea, your business plan to compete and win in the marketplace. So with that being said, let's get into step number one. All right, so the first thing that we have to do to be able to stand out in the Etsy marketplace is, one, we have to understand who our competition even is. Sometimes when I'm doing consults and I say, hey, can you give me 3 to 5 of your top Etsy competitors? What students come back to me with is shops that may be similar, but not truly their competition. So you can't compete if you don't know who you're competing against. So the free way to do this, the easiest way to do this and to find your competition is to just go into the Etsy search bar and search for a product title that is something that maybe you're thinking about selling, or a product that would be similar to what you want to sell or are currently selling. Now, what we need to do is we need to find sellers that are showing clear signs of momentum around that similar shop idea or product idea that you also have, right? And what we want to do is find people that are attracting the same customer avatar as us. So this is major key. So just because two shops may sell the same thing, it doesn't mean that they're attracting and they're not having the same customers necessarily, right? So someone selling print-on-demand funny dad shirts and someone selling sorority girl branded flowery hippie crew necks are attracting two very different customer avatars, right? They're both selling shirts and sweaters, but the funny, uncohesive brand gift shirt that could be for just like a spoof shirt for a funny holiday is a very different customer avatar and a very different purchasing decision than someone that is making very girly, hippie, trendy, aesthetic sweaters, right? Both print on demand, both selling same items at the end of the day, but attracting two different people. So when you're looking for your competition, we're looking for shops that are attracting the same customer avatar as you, that are relatively young, so less than a year old, and having a good amount of sales in a short amount of time, right? So when we're looking in the search pages, we're gonna look for products that have reviews, maybe anywhere between 400 to 800 reviews. We don't wanna get a super seasoned shop that's in the thousands of reviews, because depending on your niche, that could indicate that they're a really old seller. So we wanna find a relatively young seller. So usually the shops between 400 and 800 are newer. And what we can do is we can usually somewhere at the top, we'll show the year that the shop opened. If it doesn't show there, then you can just sort their reviews by the oldest reviews. And usually someone launched their store, it might have taken them a month or a month and a half to get their first review. So you can kind of conclude how old their shop is. And this is just the free way to do this, right? So if you see a shop that is pretty young, less than a year old, that's having a couple thousand sales in that first year, that's a pretty good sign of momentum. And those are really the true competition that we want to look at. Now that we have figured out who our competition is, and we have, I would say, at least 5 to 7 of your shops, and these are the shops that we really want to analyze. And I know a lot of times we get so excited in the beginning and we want to skip this step, but it's really important for you to understand who you're competing against, right? Because the algorithm is liking them for some reason. So we need to understand why. If you guys think you're getting value out of this video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment any questions you have down below or any suggestions for more videos. Thanks guys, let's get back into the video. Now, step number 2 is we have to find our angle to to compete. Now, here is all of the ways that we compete on Etsy. By the way, it doesn't mean that you have to compete and be the best at every single one of these attributes. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're entering a competitive marketplace like Etsy, you want to feel confident that you're competing on some level. So the first way we can compete is by having a super unique item. So just having a style of an item that is unique to you. So this is kind of like when you walk in a store like Pandora, right? Like Pandora is jewelry, but it has a very identifiable brand vibe, logo, kind of like designer feel to it, right? When you see a Pandora bracelet, you know it's Pandora or David Yurman. Now, I understand that not every single person out there is making products on a designer level, or it just doesn't even make sense for your products. But this is for a lot of people in some ways that you can compete, right? So here's a few examples where when you look at these products, it's really identifiable that that product came from that type of designer. And better yet, if you're in a niche that doesn't really have that, that could be something that you consider when you're designing your products to make it an identifiable product that came specifically from your store, because that also contributes to how loyal your customers are when they can say, oh, I bought it from this maker on Etsy that, makes this type of specific type of design, if that makes sense. Not to mention the Etsy algorithm, in my opinion, really likes these types of shops. And I also would argue that in the future that they're favoring more of these types of shops than just unbranded shops moving forward, since they are getting more strict with sellers. Another way that we can compete is by offering personalization. So personalization just always adds a level of competitiveness no matter what you're selling, offering personalization. Now, I understand that sometimes the logistics of that is more work for you on the back end. So if you're engraving in jewelry or embroidering your products, right? But in a lot of cases, it is worthwhile because the value proposition that you add to your products is just so high. But again, just an option to throw out there. A third way to compete is by beating people in price. So is there a way for you or an opportunity for you to undercut the market on price? Now, price is not always a given, but it is niche sensitive. And again, all of this data is going to come from that initial competitor analysis that you did to see what the actual opportunity is. Because sometimes, in some cases, having the cheapest price doesn't actually help you, but your pricing strategy should be based off of what you think the market says, based off your competitors, right? So if you do see an opportunity that putting your price cheaper than everyone else or having a variation option cheaper than everyone else doesn't actually deplete the perception of the quality of your item, then you could consider either making one variation option the cheaper than all your other products, so that shows on the front end, or just if you have a product line that you're making and you can come in less or cheaper, but keep the perception high with your marketing, like with all your branding and your images really high, then I would consider doing pricing strategy in the beginning. Or maybe you just do it in the beginning to gain momentum, maybe even break even for the first few months just to get reviews and gain momentum, and then increase your prices slowly from there. Number 4 is your main competitors are just offering, all similar price point, right? But no one's offering a higher ticket item with a higher value proposition. Then you can consider coming into the market, bundling things together and maybe being the highest price on the market, but the value proposition is so much higher because maybe you bundled 5 products together instead of just selling one-off item. So even though you're the most expensive, you have a different value proposition than all of your competitors because you bundled things together, and when they buy them all together in one click as a bundle, they're paying a slightly cheaper price per unit compared to if they just bought each item by one-offs. And obviously, if you're bundling things together, you want to bundle things together that make sense together. So you don't want to just randomly bundle objects together if it doesn't actually make sense for it to be purchased in one go. I forgot what number we're on, but the next one is beat them in the numbers, but the number of listings. So this again is not specific to all niches. It's again based off that competitor analysis. But if you're in jewelry or if you're in print on demand and you see that these really young shops that are pushing sales have X amount of listings, then you would want to make it a goal to consistently be launching and posting enough listings to basically get more listings than them. And it's not all about just having the most listings. It's also about the quality of those listings, obviously, but building some sort of engine where you have a consistent inflow of quality products happening where you can hit that number or beat that number of the amount of listings that they have. The next one is obviously quality. So I would even suggest you buy your competition's product to actually see it, feel it, touch it, smell it, see what the actual quality is. If you can beat beat them on the material or the perceived quality of that item because of the marketing play that you do with your imagery, then I would suggest, if you can, try to beat people on quality or perception of quality, right? Or if you're going to pick up the pricing bucket and you can't beat them on quality because you're going to try to beat them on price, and you find an alternative material or product that maybe is cheaper, so maybe you're not beating them on quality, but you're actually being able to beat them on price, that's a justification for maybe having an inferior quality product, but you know you're going to beat them on price. But again, these are all of the things to consider when looking at your competition to find that angle in. And finally, the last thing to consider is variation. So for my store specifically, I know that our unique value proposition is variation. So we offer more sizes, more colors, more designs than our competition because the nature of our product is there's a lot of quality control issues with the material that we work with. So our store specifically does all of the heavy legwork. We work in a space where there's a lot of quality control with the raw materials that we sew together. And basically we do all the dirty work and the legwork for quality controlling the fabric in a space where most people don't want to deal with it because it's so much work for the quality control. So by the very nature, we can offer way more colors, way more sizes than anyone else. And that is our unique angle because, you know, we're doing work that other people don't want to do. And as fortunately as that is, that's just the nature. Usually the top competitors are doing the work that nobody else wants to do. And it just sets you up for a better business and for the long play to be having a bigger moat around your business when it comes to competition. Like I mentioned, you don't have to come into the marketplace killing it on all of these things, but that list of items that I just listed are the top things that you would want to consider when you're looking at your competition and how you would want to beat them. Thank you so much for the end. Make sure you cue my full Etsy ads training next. That is a full Etsy ads masterclass that I put out for free that will teach you how to get to $1,000 a day spending on ads profitably. Thank you guys so much for staying to the end, and I will see you in the next video.